Hey everyone, today we're going to talk about a really simple idea that can bring a little bit of calm and a lot of clarity to one of the most stressful parts of student life. Yep, the group project. I mean, we've all been there, right? You're a few weeks in and you suddenly get this feeling. You realize your part doesn't quite fit with someone else's. One person thought you were all building a mobile app, but another person's working on a website. Maybe someone's writing a huge 10-page paper, but the professor actually wanted a 15-minute presentation. It's that awful, sinking feeling of chaos. And that chaos, it almost always starts with just a tiny misunderstanding, a small assumption someone made on day one that nobody really talked about. And these little cracks in understanding, well, they just grow and grow into major headaches down the road. Now, what's really interesting here is that word expensive. In the professional world, yeah, that means money. But for us, in a college project, expensive means all-nighters, last-minute rewrites, arguments with your team, and just a ton of unnecessary stress. Getting it right at the very beginning saves you from all of that. So how do we avoid all that stress? Well, it's simpler than you might think. It doesn't start with some complicated document or a super rigid plan. It just starts with a conversation. See, the whole point of figuring out your project's requirements isn't to create some 50-page rule book that nobody's going to read anyway. The real goal, the only goal really, is to get everyone in the group to have the exact same picture in their head of what you're all trying to build together. And this quote just nails it. It doesn't matter if it's a client and a developer or just you and your project partners. Clarity only comes from talking. And notice that word continuously. It's not just one meeting at the start. It's an ongoing dialogue. So let's just pause on that for a second. This whole idea isn't about adding more work. It's about making the work you're already doing clearer, simpler, and way more connected. The goal is just clarity. Okay, so you've had that first conversation, everyone's on the same page, but what happens when things change? What if you get a brilliant new idea halfway through? The good news is that's not a problem. It's actually part of the process. There's this common myth that you can just change things whenever, no big deal. But the reality is a small change early on is like a tiny ripple in a pond. That exact same change made the night before the deadline, that's a tsunami. It can wreck the whole project. Timing is everything. And honestly, here's the most reassuring part. You are not expected to have everything figured out perfectly on day one. In fact, it's pretty much impossible. As you work on the project, you learn more, you get smarter. And as you get smarter, your ideas about what the project should be will naturally evolve. That's a good thing. Just think about that for a second. When a requirement changes, it doesn't mean someone messed up. It means the team discovered something new, something important. It's actually a sign of progress, not a mistake. So just breathe. Okay, so if we know conversation is key, and we know change is going to happen, how do we handle all of it without things falling into chaos? Well, we need a simple tool. Not a strict set of rules, but more like a compass to keep us all pointed in the same direction. And this is what's known as requirements management. I know it sounds super formal, but look at the key words: identify, control, and track. It's really just about noticing when a change is suggested and having a simple, agreed-upon way to talk about it as a team. So the main takeaway here, this isn't about bureaucracy or red tape. It's about having a shared map. So when someone on the team wants to take a detour, the map helps you all see where that new path might lead, and you can decide together if it's the right way to go. So what does this look like in the real world? It's pretty simple. When a new idea comes up, you can follow 3 basic steps. First, you just analyze the idea. Then second, you figure out the cost. Will it mean more work? Will we have to change something we already did? And third, if the team agrees it's a good idea, you figure out how to make it happen without blowing up the whole project. And just remember, this little process isn't meant to slow you down. It's actually designed to keep the entire team in sync so that you all arrive at the finish line together, feeling calm and hopefully on schedule. Now, this might sound like a lot to take in, but you really don't have to implement some big, complex system. You can start with just one simple, really powerful action on your very next project. That's it. That's the whole thing. Before anyone writes a single line of code or a single paragraph, just get your team together and ask that one question. What does a successful outcome look like for all of us? Then just make a short, shared list of your answers. And that becomes your compass. Because in the end, that's really what this is all about. Just taking a quiet moment to think and to communicate clearly before you dive headfirst into the chaos. that shared clarity is what can transform a super stressful project into a really rewarding collaboration. Thanks for listening.